There is some huge news in this month's Menace update, starting with a few things from the Discord. The developers have confirmed we'll be getting more news at the Gamescom event in August, and a playable demo is planned before release. Fingers crossed for a release date, but based on some of the discussions, I think that we will at least get a new trailer or some less combat-focused aspects of the gameplay. Next is just a screenshot that was shared by the devs that I personally think is really cool. Rocket troopers are confirmed, and they're giving me flashbacks to the Reapers from StarCraft 2. Finally, a new added system is covered in the developer blogs this month that may just be the perfect compromise for players wanting to name their soldiers. I'm excited about this one. Let's get started. This entry shows off some of the accessories available to your squads in Menace, complementing the special weapons that were shown in last month's video. Accessories occupy their own slot in your inventory, so they won't interfere with other equipment choices like weapons and armor. However, they do still cost supply points. These accessories have a wide variety of effects, ranging from passive buffs to new skills and abilities for the units that are using them. Interestingly enough, the dev diary mentions that vehicles can also equip accessories, but those are different from the infantry ones that are covered here. First up is the standard frag grenade, which come with 3 uses. The biggest advantages of these is that you don't need a direct line of sight, and the explosions ignore most cover. Great for confined areas or to flush enemies out of fortified positions. They can also hit multiple elements in a squad to take out chaff. The downsides, of course, are the limited range and armor penetration. Next is the ammo bag, a pretty straightforward accessory. These increase the amount of uses for a squad's special weapon by 50% and do not apply to other accessories like the grenades. The disposable anti-tank launcher is a cheap, single-use way to outfit infantry with anti-vehicle capabilities. Multiple can be equipped if you want more than one use, and in a pinch they can be used to remove enemy cover or engage heavily armored units. These actually have very limited range and won't flat out destroy a tank, but can take advantage of the weaker armor spots like the side and rear of heavily armored vehicles. Smoke grenades are an essential item for many situations. They have limited uses, but when deployed, completely block line of sight. These are useful for pushing fortified positions or when you find yourself caught with your pants down. Armor plates can be inserted to replace damaged or destroyed plates and will refill your squad's armor durability. These are a single-use item and are especially useful for armor with high durability to really maximize their effect. Demolition charges are kinda like C4 and can only be placed on adjacent tiles. Once they're set up, these charges can be remotely triggered at any time for a devastating area of effect explosion. The blog specifically states that these can easily bring down buildings and destroy heavily armored vehicles, but of course, setting them up and getting the enemies close enough requires a little bit of planning ahead. The target designator has unlimited uses and can mark an enemy unit, vehicle, or building for a 2-turn duration. These enemies will stay marked even if they move out of sight, and some specific off-map abilities and guided weapons can only engage marked targets. Another bonus is that all attacks on a marked target will have their accuracy increased. Armor-piercing ammo comes with a disclaimer that only one ammo type can be equipped at a time, and the effect from ammo only applies to projectile squad weapons. This means that special weapons, like a sniper rifle, will not be affected by this ammo type. Armor-piercing is obviously designed specifically to penetrate body armor, but does have slightly reduced damage against flesh. Epinephrine injectors, also referred to as combat drugs, are a cocktail of stimulants to reduce fear, exhaustion, and pain. These come with 2 uses and completely remove a squad's suppression, even if they're pinned down, effectively putting them back into the fight immediately. Injections also increase the unit's discipline for 1 turn, but have negative effects once they wear off, and continued use can lead to withdrawal or your units having negative emotional states and lower morale. Protagon tablets are another cocktail of stimulants to increase performance and known for being highly addictive. Using these drugs will give your units an additional turn with 50% of their total action points, but again, highly addictive. Night vision devices have been talked about briefly in other entries, and I think we all know what these are. In low light or nighttime missions, penalties will not apply with these equipped. This is a passive buff and will remain in effect for the entire mission. There's basic versions that cover night vision only, and advanced ones with thermal imaging and other detection methods as well. This section walks us through the process and options to expect when selecting and playing through a mission in Menace. After accepting an operation from a local faction, you'll have a choice between which mission to play. The mission tree for operations was shown in an earlier devlog that went more in detail on the types that are available. Because this is set up like a tree, the missions available for you to choose will always depend on the previous ones. There's a few factors to consider when looking at your options. Missions have an overall difficulty rating, with higher ones having more or tougher enemies, and a possibility of the rewards being of a higher rarity. Every mission will also allow players to seize a strategic asset that will aid them for the remainder of the operation. The strategic asset shown in the example is a ground-to-air missile site that will engage enemy transports and lower their available supplies. Your choices may have completely different strategic assets, so choosing the one that suits your playstyle and needs most is important. The actual mission reward will always be an item, like armor or weapons, but you'll only see the category when selecting and not the actual item you'll receive. Next, we move on to the mission prep screen that gives a rough overview of the upcoming battle, including suspected enemy positions. Covered in a previous devlog, gaining intelligence can give you more specific information on enemy types, but in this example, we have none, so there's only basic information. We can see that we'll be deploying in the south, the 2 blue zones that need to be captured, as well as where the enemy will advance from in the north. Speed is the key in this particular mission, as if we can set up positions in the capture zones before the enemy arrives, it will be much easier. We could also look at splitting our units to capture both at the same time, or just focusing on one. Completing a mission faster will give us a much higher rating, but splitting the units is too risky, as right now we don't have that many. Let's take a look at our teams. The first squad will be inside of a light personnel carrier with submachine guns and grenades. The squad leader is equipped with Class 3 armor, which is very resilient to small arms fire, and the special weapons slot is intentionally left empty so the squad will have one more SMG instead, making them even better for close quarter combat. The second squad leader is the pilot of a personnel carrier, which gets outfitted with a transport compartment and medium machine gun. These could be switched out for different weapons, but since we're focused on speed, the medium machine gun is all we really need to provide fire support. The second squad of infantry has no body armor or advanced weapons, as these things are difficult to come by in the beginning of the game. Since they only have basic fatigues and carbines, they'll need to pick their fights carefully, but the rocket launcher has been chosen for their squad special weapon in case the need arises to take on any pirate vehicles or destroy enemy cover. Our last squad of infantry also doesn't have any body armor, and their job is to hang back with their special weapon, the medium machine gun, and provide additional support. With the extra supply points that were available, it was decided they should have some grenades to move enemies out of cover if needed. Now that we've done the prep work, here's the basic plan. Our squads will rush the first objective as fast as possible, hoping to get there and set up defensive positions before enemies arrive. This would make things easier, but if they happen to get there before us, then we'll have to move aggressively into close quarters combat and secure the zone. Next, we'll use the straight road and the capacity of the personnel carrier to push over to the second zone as soon as we secure the first. Most likely, the pirates will already be there and in covered positions at that time, so we'll have to be ready with grenades or explosives to destroy or dislodge them from cover. Let's see how it plays out. The first part of the plan goes off without a hitch. The radar station is captured with no enemy resistance. As we're using the road and carrier to move to the second objective, we don't see any pirates until we get close to the actual capture zone. Since these pirates are out in the open, the carrier engages and makes quick work of them, while the submachine gun infantry squad dismounts and moves into cover. More pirates are spotted at the back of the zone, and close air support is called in to strafe their position. The pirates fire at the infantry squad, but can't penetrate the Class 3 body armor. Next turn, the strafing run suppresses the pirates for a moment, and this time is used to bring up the squad with the rocket launcher, destroying the enemy cover and leaving them exposed. Once this initial barrier is broken, infantry and the carrier move in to mop up the remaining pirate forces and capture the second zone. This screenshot is of the mission results screen, which gives us our mission rating 3.5 out of 5 stars, plus the amount of promotion points earned, item choices for the reward, and the strategic asset we've secured for the rest of the operation. The next screen just shows the performance of the specific squad leaders, casualties taken, enemies eliminated, and any effects the leader may be under. Now that the mission has been aced with 0 casualties, the operation continues, and we move up the tree to select our next one. As a reminder, all operations have different branches, but will always end with one particularly difficult mission as sort of a climax. Before deploying for the next mission, promotion points can can be used to unlock perks, and equipment can be handed out or changed in your squads. This entry is all about vehicles and how their health, damage, and defects are handled. It's important to note that there are key differences between vehicles and mechs, mainly how they move, which does affect their usage and abilities. Vehicles mostly use tracks or wheels, while mechs, or walkers, have legs. Vehicles tend to be heavier and slower, but more resilient to damage, with the front generally being more heavily armored than the back and sides. Mechs, on the other hand, are more agile and have the advantage of 2 extra weapon slots for bonus firepower, with the same level of armor all the way around. The movement mechanics reflect these traits, with vehicles being faster when moving in straight lines or driving on roads. However, they do struggle with turns and have to slow down significantly on corners or obstacles, which will cost more action points in-game. This means that good planning is necessary when moving your vehicles, and ensuring a straight, obstacle-free path will really maximize their action points. Walkers, on the other hand, won't reach the same speeds, but have the advantage of being able to turn on a dime. They don't need to use any additional action points to change the direction they're facing, making them much more flexible on the battlefield. While vehicles are great for more open terrain, mechs excel in confined spaces like settlements and move just like infantry units. Vehicles, on the other hand, can easily get stuck when navigating tight alleys or narrow roads, leaving them open to being flanked. Both vehicles and walkers have HP, armor, and armor durability stats just like infantry units, and they both have universal damage thresholds. A certain amount of HP damage will cause a defect to appear, similar to an injury. At 25% hit point loss, a light defect will appear. Examples are a small fire or overloaded controls that stun the unit for 1 turn, or maybe some light damage to their weapons that will cause them to malfunction. These defects tend to wear off quickly and are generally easy to work around. At 50% hit point loss, a vehicle will get a medium defect. Examples are a bigger fire that continues to damage the vehicle until it's put out, engine damage that lowers movement abilities, or damaged optics that can reduce range, accuracy, and detection stats. At 75% hit point loss, a heavy defect is suffered. These are very serious and generally mean the end of a unit. Examples include a large destructive fire or completely destroyed weapon systems and engines, which effectively immobilize them. A critical hit can also be a heavy defect and instantly evaporate a vehicle in a massive explosion. These are only examples, and the devs say there are way more generic defects in addition to those that are mentioned here. There's also unique defects that each individual vehicle or weapon type can have attached to them. These are actually really interesting. For example, an EMP weapon can have an accidental discharge and effectively stun all the machines around it. A vehicle armed with rockets may have them cook off and shoot randomly when it's destroyed, damaging anything in the area. Likewise, vehicles that use flames and large fuel tanks can have their fuel lines punctured and start leaving trails of fire behind them when they move. These are really cool possibilities that will add a lot to the risk-reward factor and dynamic nature of the battles. This dev diary covers a brand new system that was just put into the game. While it may be inconsequential to some, I think that this is a great feature for those who wanted more customization of their soldiers and squads. It basically takes a squad's additional hit points and turns them into persistent soldiers that can be named. But first, why was this system implemented? Originally, each squad came with a fixed number of 5 soldiers, including the squad leader. Each soldier, or element of a squad, contributed 10 hit points to the total amount available for that squad. When a group would take 10 or more damage, one soldier and their weapon would be removed. This system was more or less just an abstract way of using soldiers as nothing more than visual representation for hit points. After missions, you could heal and refill your squads, and the elements would be replaced and life would go on. Not very immersive, and kind of reduced your fallen soldiers to nothing more than just statistics. Ultimately, this new system was added in because it was just too rigid for every squad to always only be 5 soldiers. You couldn't make a 3-man mortar squad or a 9-soldier rifle platoon it was always just 5. Being able to adjust these sizes and make squads how you want not only increases your tactical options, but also makes it easier to balance and work around the supply point budget without having to always be in increments of 5 soldiers. However, this caused the problem of what to do when squads take losses if you could just change the size after a mission and gain your soldiers back. And this is where the Squaddie system came in, a persistent group of manpower to draw from, or in other words, a character pool, where each Squaddie takes the place of a faceless element in the original system and represents a soldier in your group. Players can now experiment with different squad sizes and add up to 8 of these Squaddies if they choose, plus the leader, adding another level of customization and strategic planning. All Squaddies will be pulled from the manpower pool, and you can choose which units to add each of them to. So now, when an element dies in combat, a Squaddie will be lost forever and there is no automatic healing or refilling. Instead, you'll have to upgrade your recruitment office to increase your manpower capacity, or find Squaddies through events and special missions like hostage rescues and evacuations. This makes your manpower the defining resource. These soldiers are now persistent across both the tactical and strategy layer, and losing too many of them will eventually become too costly and unsustainable. I know that was a bit of a long explanation, but here's the part that you've been waiting for. Each Squaddie will come with a customizable name, surname, call sign, home planet, gender, look, and mission survived tracker. There's currently over 1,300 call signs in the game, so you shouldn't run out of options anytime soon. This gives your soldiers real names, faces, and backgrounds outside of only the squad leaders, and allows for some of that emergent storytelling and stat tracking as you progress through missions and keep them alive. Squad leaders will still be fully written and pre-made characters, but now your friends and family can be the Squaddies in the trenches with them. What do you guys think of this addition to the game? Is it a solid compromise allowing for soldier naming and tracking? Let me know in the comments. And if you missed the previous breakdowns and dev diaries for Menace, just click through to the video that's on screen now.